They've done it again. So according to the latest, Florida deputies, they decided to bring a woman out of her home, black woman, nude, kick down a door for nothing. Put up the picture of the guy in charge. This is Eric Eden. Eric Eden is the county sheriff for Okaloosa. Now I'm going to show you the connection. The same Florida Sheriff's Department that has come under fire for shooting and killing a senior airman with the U.S. Air Force last month. We talked about that extensively and even interviewed a former Baltimore cop. For killing this airman with the U.S. Air Force last month, that same department has now been sued for twice breaking into one home of the same black woman, forcing this woman outside with no clothes on. Well, then they handcuffed her, leaving her standing in front of her home in full view of her two children and everyone else. LaTanya Griffin was not even listed on the warrant served by Okaloosa County Sheriff's deputies when they used a battering ram to break into her home before dawn on two occasions. First occasion was in 2019, the second in 2020. Rousing her out of her sleep, ordering her at gunpoint to walk out of her home in the nude, by the way. That's according to the federal lawsuit. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is also the same law enforcement agencies whose deputy fired multiple times at a patrol car containing an unarmed, handcuffed black male. This was November 2023. We covered that as well. Why did he shoot at an unarmed black man handcuffed in his car? Because he got spooked because an acorn fell on the vehicle. And when the acorn fell, he said it was gunfire. He was allowed to resign. When he started shooting at the individual handcuffed in the backseat of his cruiser, his supervisor, a female, was on the scene. She started shooting too. Ironically, the man did not get hit by a single bullet inside of that vehicle. He was not killed. He was not taken to an ER to be resuscitated or nothing. With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. So he said an acorn fell. He just patted the man down. The man had no weapons. That's why he was inside of the police cruiser. And how do you shoot when you're handcuffed? Anyway, Griffin's lawsuit is the latest black eye for law enforcement in this community. The Florida Panhandle, that's the area, oversees a population of 212,000 people. The family of Airman Roger Fortson, who was killed last month in an incident that's more than questionable, the sheriff has determined it to be unnecessary force, will likely also file a lawsuit after retaining attorney Benjamin Crump. The deputy in that case, Eddie Duran, has been fired. Now, let me tell you the irony of that. So this deputy goes to a door, probably the wrong door, shoots and kills a military official. Military official answered the door with his weapon to his side because, well, number one, the cop was knocking aggressively, and number two, the cop decided to hide so that he could not be seen through the peephole. All right? Shoots and kills him. Sheriff says, we're going to review all the evidence. Justice will prevail. He then fires the deputy, but doesn't arrest him. He fires the deputy for using unnecessary lethal force. A human being is dead that was in service to the nation in an elite military group, and that cop still does not get arrested. There's more. In Griffin's case, deputies were searching for a man named Tony Streeter, who was wanted on charges of drug trafficking, firearms offenses, and arson. Streeter had since been convicted and is serving a 30-year sentence, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. It is not clear from the lawsuit or the press release issued by the Department of Justice what Streeter's connection was to Griffin's residence. The only charges she ever faced from the two raids were misdemeanors stemming from the second incident, possession of marijuana, all right? But those charges have now been completely dismissed. Online court records show the only other brushes with law enforcement Griffin has had in the past was over traffic tickets and an eviction violation, which were civil matters primarily. So Griffin's lawsuit names the county sheriff, Eric Aden, and a now retired deputy named Grady Carpenter, who one investigator oversaw both of those raids. Spokesperson for the sheriff's office stated that the sheriff was not the sheriff during those incidents and therefore unable to comment. That's really interesting. What if CEOs took that position in corporate America? Well, I wasn't the CEO when that person was hired. So if they've done something that's completely corrupt and illegal, there's nothing I can do about that. It's not my fault. What you expect me to do about it? There's more. The attorney representing Griffin told the local news that he is being sued in his official capacity. So it says, quote, to know an individual is unclothed or totally naked, not once, but twice. And then you just kind of bring them out of their dwelling into a public area of people to have access to their appearance. It's just unspeakable. You know why you don't hear about this a whole lot? We do report on it when it does happen, but it doesn't happen often because typically officers will actually allow someone to grab something before effecting an arrest. These officers decided not to follow that simple courtesy, not once, but twice, to the same person, same address, same style of raid. All right, so the lawsuit states in the first incident that took place August 29th, 2019, and the second incident, which took place May 28th, 2020. Deputies used battering rams in both incidents, both rousing her from asleep, ordering her outside naked, the whole nine, okay? So she's forced outside. She was forced to stand in front of multiple cops, including local, state, and federal officers. It was a task force for a substantial amount of time in front of her 14-year-old son and 6-year-old daughter, including everyone else. The seizing Okaloosa Sheriff's deputies eventually placed a tank top t-shirt over the plaintiff's head, providing partial covering, but not concealment of her genitalia. They decided not to cover that up at all. The lawsuit states Griffin is seeking damages of more than $1 million. I hope she gets every penny she's asking for. Now, this department has not engaged in an isolated incident. We have now a tapestry of dysfunction. And I would conclude this is part of a cultural issue inside of the department. And it doesn't matter what the policy says, because as I say often, culture eats policy alive every day of the week. All right, Jackson, this is a hell of a thing and a hell of a department.
Yeah, really. I mean, like you pointed out, you would think that they would at least have given her the opportunity to put on clothes. This is the type of treatment that you would see like maybe the Mexican military giving cartel members or something. Like when they've been on the run for a long time, they catch them, beat them, slap them, stuff like that. And even then, they'll probably still have clothes on. I mean, they treat the way they treated her, you would think she was like an enemy of the state making, bioweapons or something. And they had to get her out of the house before she pressed the big red button. I think that she has a good chance of winning this just because it's so egregious. I mean, you couldn't even let her put her clothes on, and then you did it twice. Right. There's just no way to defend this. And then the acorn drop and you bust out all those shots and then miss everything. Like, you sure you want a person who can't hit their target to have guns? It's just, no matter how you look at this, it's just a terrible situation. And unfortunately, she was humiliated and she's going to be traumatized about this for the rest of her life.
That's right. And just a reminder, dear brother, that what you said is spot on. Given the fact, yes, two different sheriffs, but the same investigator was in charge of both raids. So you have your causal connection there.